All
worry
right. So
about that.
before we do begin the actual official episode, I'm going to give you the same courtesy that I've given a couple of guests already.
Okay.
You either tell me one
Okay.
thing about you that nobody knows that you want to share right now,
Okay.
or you get to be a victim of one of my dad jokes out of this box.
Oh, what which nobody knows about me? Very few people know about the fact that, I used to travel a lot for my school, like 6 hours every day just to get my education for free. That was the whole intent. Apart from that, what something fun? Let me think. I really enjoyed Morocco. I've been to a lot of places in Europe. I enjoyed that one quite a bit because it has the mix of, there's a strong cultural influence. Plus, you can afford to be a bum over there because they have so much of, massages and hammam are part of the culture. So you can be like, so I enjoyed that point of it because I feel
Oh,
like
gosh.
ours like, right?
Yeah.
So that was the whole, and I enjoyed Morocco significantly because of that.
I would have said Henderson. We're not kissing up to Henderson or anything like that. Not because we're on a show called Hello Henderson.
Home, right? So home is where heart is, and home is where comfort is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Hello Henderson here on Dead Brand Radio. I am Haas, and with me today is someone that I've met recently at Tech Alley Henderson. As a matter of fact, part of a panel in Women's Month celebration at Tech Alley Henderson, Miss
Yes,
Kadambari.
yes.
But you go by CAD, right?
Yes, and that's because I've heard so many variations of my name. There was a time it was a very big meeting, 25 people, and we were trying to firefight, and someone just comes and says, Calamari, I need your help. So, I thought I'll make it easier for everybody and call it CAD. And I used to be a physics TA, and my students found CAD comfortable.
Yeah, well, that's interesting because, my name is Hosni, but I go by Haas. I just say it's like the Wizard of Oz, just add an H to it. It's more like personalizing a little bit. So I had to deal with that for practically my whole life. So no, I get it. I get it.
But Hogni and Kadambari, I think calamari, I think that just cracks people up quite a bit. No?
Yeah, you'd be surprised, like different names that people call me, which I'm not going to get into right now, but different names or words or misplacing letters or replacing them or something like that. So, but I know you get the same thing, but I get it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
Why don't you tell us who you are?
My name is Kadambari Bilwar. I'm a resident of Henderson, and I moved to Henderson almost a year and a half back. I'm an engineer by education, and I'm a CEO by profession. I run a medical device company. I have a family of four, which includes my husband. I have two daughters. One is already studying at Penn State for veterinarian science. My second daughter, she's a part of Coronado High School locally, and she's wanting to be a veterinarian as well. And I have a
Wow.
little cat named Beatty.
That's cute. Is Petey right there? Is Petey joining us in this call or not right now?
He will. He's become very, very needy. And I thought I got a cat. It's not supposed to be needy, but I have a very, very needy cat who knocks on my door every morning to wake me up.
Yeah, no, I get that. I have three dogs, and it's because I'm allergic to cats. But my kids usually call my bluff on that. It's not. I'm not really allergic. I just don't want to clean up after cats.
We'll talk. I have some notes to exchange.
There you go. All right, so Gad, tell us about your story of how you got to Henderson and what brought you to Henderson. What attracted you to Henderson?
So one of the things when we were planning to move to Nevada, and I wanted to be in Vegas, Henderson, and all neighborhood. when we were driving around trying to figure out where we want to live, we drove on Eastern. I live close to Anthem, and we drove on Eastern. I'm like, this is perfect. This has all the restaurants, all the comfort we are looking for, and our community is very green. I'm like, this feels so relaxing and comfortable and home, and it has great schools, which is why we landed up out in Henderson.
And a lot of people actually have that misconception that don't live here, is that Vegas is just Vegas, right? It's party, it's casinos, it's
Yeah.
drinking, it's eating, it's partying, it's shopping. Yeah, Vegas has that, but Vegas also has residents. And a
Right.
lot of people don't come to realization that there's a nice place to live out here. There's a bunch of nice places to live out here. And one of them happens to be Henderson, which is
Yeah.
about a stone throw away from the strip. I know I've lived here since last year. I think I've been to the strip like 2 or 3 times. There's so much to do around here that I'd rather do nearby than actually go to the strip and deal with the parking and the driving and the traffic. Is that how you felt?
Right. In fact, it's interesting that we used to visit Vegas when we were in Bay Area, and I feel like I used to be on the strip more at that time than what I am doing that right now.
Yes.
Henderson has fantastic restaurants to visit already. I don't need to go to the strip to eat Michelin star food.
That's kind of like when I grew up on the East Coast and I lived in Jersey and I was stone throw away also from New York City. And it's funny because when we had people come visit us, they'd say, I want to go to the Statue of Liberty or I want to go to the Empire State Building. When you live there, you don't think about it. You're like, why? Why would you want to go there on your day off or your
On the day
weekend?
off.
So,
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. So,
Even my visitors, they're like, oh, you know what? We want to go to the strip. I'm like, darn it. I have to deal with parking, where
yeah,
to be in the center and do all the walking.
that's
Henderson.
like when I lived in California and people want to go to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And you're like, oh my God.
Let me figure out where I have to park.
All right.
You said
So
about
we met a few weeks back at Tech Alley Henderson. I had the honor of watching you being one of the panel participants for women in tech and women leaders in the community. I'm probably butchering the name of that panel discussion, but can you tell us a little bit more about that panel and what did you all discuss?
that was a very unique panel. Now, being in tech, I do get to an opportunity to be part of panels, but this was very unique. First of all, there were women who are using tech. They're not necessarily from the tech background. So I felt so honored to be a part of the whole panel, which Lorraine had set up. Especially there's a judge on the panel, there's someone with the AI background, there's someone who's in banking industry, there's someone in marketing industry, and they're talking about how they're using AI for betterment for themselves and the people around them. And it was fantastic because you get so pigeonholed into tech that knowing how others are using tech, like judges and all, you don't hear that as often. So this was very enlightening for me. It was very good for experience. And a lot of them are local, which basically means I literally had to say, you girls are so fantastic that I would want to continue meeting you guys out here because I'm new and I'd love to build my social circle and click. So it was
Right.
exciting, Walter.
It was exciting, and it was a quite a unique. Like you said, you had a judge, you had a marketing person, you had somebody from banking, you had somebody from MGM, and then we have you. How did you make your way onto the panel?
Because what Trust Health does is we are an agentic AI platform. What we do is early detect complication, post-surgical complication like surgical site infection. And since we use AI significantly, I had a chance to discuss with Lorraine. We put a panel together at Tech Alley, and we'd love to hear your experience about healthcare, and your co-fellows are going to be in different fields, how they use AI. I'm like, that is perfect. And I was very surprised because the number of people in the room, there were over 120 people in the room, all very focused, all asking such fantastic questions. It felt like, having a conversation rather than, somebody when you're on panel and it looks very formal. This felt so fluid altogether talking to them.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious to know, tell me a little bit more about your company. What's it called again?
Trust Health.
Trust
So
Health. Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. And how did it make its way into Henderson and onto that panel?
because of the AI background, we landed up starting the company almost 2 years back. The whole journey was basically trying to support doctors and patients when patient is discharged post-surgically. Patients are discharged from hospital after critical surgeries in less than 24 hours. which lets them recover at their home. And during when they're recovering, most of the times, 90% of the patients who are recovering at home come to know about their complications when they are at their residence. And they don't know if this is a complication or just side effect of a surgery. And which is where we come in. We monitor the patients. We predict if they are a high risk candidate and present it to the doctors so they can pre-optimize the patients. We are a medical device platform using AI for betterment of our patients. So it's supposed to calm the patient down so that they don't land up in an ER with very critical issues and cost healthcare systems at least 10 times the cost when it could be a $200 appointment.
So what I'm hearing is that instead of people panicking and going on Dr. Google, Dr. TikTok, and they self-diagnose themselves, you came up with a solution, especially for those that came out of surgery, that when they're experiencing something, they just put it into that app, that AI empowered app that tells you, here is what's going on and here is how serious it is and what you do with that. Did I get that correctly?
In fact, better than that. In fact, what happens is as the patients are recovering at home and they start to get signs of any complications happening to them, okay?
Right.
We catch these signs before even any visible sign comes up.
Oh, so I don't even have to wait to put something in there. It tells you ahead.
Tells you
Oh,
ahead
wow.
whenever we are getting complicated. For example, we detected patients who are developing seroma. That means their surgery, the wound is healing properly, but there was a condition where serum is getting formed underneath the incision, which eventually can
Oh,
cause a bigger problem like infection or resurgery. So we detected that and we made the patient go back to the hospital to see their doctor in the clinic, and the doctor were able to drain 30 ml of serum out of their feet. So this
wow.
helps prevent a bigger catastrophe. So because we catch those little signs which people miss, and even before any visible symptoms of complication appear.
Okay, I'm going to give you a scenario and tell me if your app would have, or if your technology would have helped with this. So my father had triple bypass surgery. He eventually had internal bleeding, and the wounds from where they did, like they wouldn't close all the way. And then he started developing bacteria because of the constant internal bleeding that they didn't discover till it was too late. And then eventually his body deteriorated and he passed away. Is that something that your device or your solution would have helped with and would have detected early on?
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that.
I appreciate that. It was a long time ago, so I'm not as emotional about it, but it is something that it's good. That's why I was like so attracted to what you were doing. When I first met you and I heard about your technology, I was like, wow, this could have saved my dad's life so many years ago. So I was wondering, is that something that people can benefit in that form or that fashion that I just explained?
Absolutely. That is exactly what we are doing, because everywhere, wherever we describe, there is what Trust Health is doing. We get so many people who walk up to me, my mother had this issue, or my father had this, my
Yeah.
uncle had it. And the whole thing stems from exactly the experience. So before this, I used to manage Stanford Children's Health, and I'm very aware of the fact that, patients land up coming into the ER with a condition which is far worse than, and I wish we would have caught it. So that led to the passion. And we have our uncles, aunts in India who suffer from chronic issues like hypertension, diabetes, who are at
Yeah.
high risk of getting infected or complication as it is. So that's why we came out with this medical device platform.
Wow.
And
So
we definitely want to, and we do see the benefits of our patients reaping, getting detected earlier, and getting the peace of mind when they're recovering at home that there's someone watching them.
now, is there a personal story of why you started that, or is this something that affected you personally, or something that you saw a need for? Can you give us a little background how you got to that idea?
There are multiple actually. Like, my uncle, he has had two knee surgeries done. And the second one, because of the first one, got infected.
Mm.
Unfortunately, what happens is as you get revision surgeries done, your deterioration, the range of motion, everything gets affected the more number of surgeries you land up doing. And I
Yeah.
saw a man who was active, full of life, and was very active. He would go and hike, and suddenly this person has turned into someone who's very unhappy with his situation, and he's almost bedridden because of that fact. And to add to it, both my parents have diabetes. which basically, now their biggest scare is that they don't want to go through any surgery just because they are at a high risk. So this is all ties in, and this is all personal experience which drove us to start Trust Health.
Wow. That's well, thank you for sharing that, by the way. Grateful that somebody like you, with the knowledge that you have and the passion, was able to create something that can save hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, right? So, where are you right now? Like, where can people find that technology right now?
Actually piloted at several hospitals in India, and we are looking for the pilot program in Henderson. So to partner with hospital where we put our agentic AI application and distribute some medical devices to be able to see how the patients are recovering out here in my hometown as well. But currently we are going through our clinical approval for India platform, and I hope in next 1 month we are able to get full approvals to be able to deploy our device commercialized significantly.
Congratulations. And you say you're looking for a hospital around here. What do you have any numbers that say this is a good place to do in Henderson, other than you obviously living here so you can monitor the metrics and the success rate? But is there something about Henderson that says this is a good place for us to test this out?
I've noticed, like wherever we stay, there are a lot of senior folks who go through surgery. So any ambulatory center, clinic, doctors of 5 or more practice, hospitals, we are definitely open to partnering with them and do an early partnership and deploy a solution. And the reason why in Henderson, just because this is home and this is where our heart is, this is where we want to be. So we
Yeah.
do want to create a community out here.
Yeah. And, you're right. There's quite a few retirement communities around here. There's also quite a few veterans around here, right? So I'd imagine that is something that would probably be helpful with all that. So, how can someone get a device like that? Let's say if it gets piloted, do they go get it? Does the doctor recommend it? Is it something that you get through a prescription? How does that work?
We partner with the doctor. What we'll do initially is, without even the device, we'll deploy our algorithm into the EMR, the Epic system, which analyzes the patient and is able to predict surgical site infection. And the next phase, we can start deploying the medical devices once patients and providers are comfortable with.
Okay, so the patient would go home with a device when the doctor recommends it to them, basically.
And the first step is, why don't we just predict the patient? So let's say our hospital has 2,000 patients which they serve for that whole 1 month. We can do analysis of all those 2,000 patients and categorize them to tell them these are high risk patients and these are medium risk patients. The doctors can pre-optimize them already and decide, how to change their treatment or how to change or when to do the surgery to be able to get the maximum benefit of the surgery and ensure the patient is protected as well.
Wow. Who have you talked to around here and reached out to, or who are you trying to reach out to? I mean, I know you're trying to reach hospitals and doctors, but is there someone specific or some institution specifically that you're looking for or would love to partner up with?
I'd love to partner with any hospitals. We want to impact patients, and that patient set does not have to be a particular hospital. So we are open to any hospital systems, any ambulatory centers or wound care centers who want to partner. So we are open to partnering with either of those.
It's such a, like, again, maybe because I'm connecting with it personally, I can't imagine not a lot of people would connect with something like this person and say like, yep, I wish I would have had that for me or for my parents or for my cousin or my uncle or whatnot. So thank you so much for, having such a wonderful solution that people can really truly benefit out of. I mean, it has a lot of fun for a lot of people, but people mistaken the benefits of AI. Like, for example, I use it to prepare for the show or do some editing or write some postings. But I always say AI to me is like having a college intern. I always have to check their work, but I'm talking like Chat GPT and Claude. I still have to check its work.
Right.
Yours is a lot different. It's not an open source type of, hey, I'm looking for this detection, right? Like yours is very specific. In the most simplest layman's terminology that somebody like me can understand, can you help me understand exactly how does your AI is different from like a Chat GPT or a Claude?
First of all, anything healthcare is vetted out, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, what we are doing is very similar to Claude. We are not replacing nurses. We are not replacing doctors. So they are going to be the ones gateway who's finally saying that yes, we detect that, because we do not want to take personalization out of healthcare. What AI does is enable the doctors to make the critical decisions by having all the data in front of them, which can be fragmented as of the AI tool is just triggering the alerts to the doctors to be able for them to react back. We know that the number of doctors are decreasing. It's hard to get a doctor's appointment. It's hard to even get a nurse's appointment. And because them being busy, it's very difficult for them to treat all the patients equally, because every patient is not equal. There are some who need more help and there are some who don't. So, which is why we enable the doctors to get alert for patients who need more care versus the other ones.
I had a conversation with Alex Perez of Automate Planet. He does AI agents. He called them something else for basically handling your intake calls or making calls on your behalf or whatnot. And I know that Hope Link of Southern Nevada, they are one of his clients. I know because we talked about it also on the show about how AI is really helping out a lot, if especially handling over 600 calls a day for people saying, I need help, I'm about to be displaced, I'm about to be homeless, or I need help with something else. So it's a good example of how AI is used correctly, appropriately, ethically, and I feel like yours does the same thing. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, the ethics part of it? And it's not replacing people, it's helping people in those positions to do their work better.
Right. It's helping with work, the issues which people run into regarding manpower, right?
Yeah.
It's helping people to be able to see before and alert and predict, right? So we are not replacing nurses, we are not replacing physiotherapists, we are not replacing doctors. It's just that they are running thin because
Yeah.
there aren't enough people to support the number of patients around. And
Or
to
their questions, because sometimes they're just tiny little questions, right?
And sometimes it's a basic thing like my incision feels it doesn't feel like
It's itchy.
it's healing, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to tell the physiotherapist, for example, we equip the physiotherapists who come to patients home. At that point of time, the physiotherapists sometimes when they are taking care of the patients, they were not able to see or predict the patient's incision getting infected. So we help them see the incisions underneath, right? Which helps them. What happens is just because of the fact that there are some AI which detects the patterns of how wound is healing early on, we are able to tell the physiotherapist, I think this patient is recovering well. You do not have to worry about the incision, or this patient needs a little more care. Let's get them back to the clinic. So we are
Yeah.
not causing any alarms to the patient just because the patients can panic.
Wow. I'm so impressed by the technology and by the ability. What's next for this technology? Like, where does it go from here? So let's say if you get a hospital to partner up with and pilot this with, what's next? Like, how does it expand beyond that? Is it just surgeries, or what's the future looks like for this technology?
So we are a platform, which means we not only scale up into a different clinical surgeries, we also have other conditions. We actually talking to lung transplant doctors who want to utilize our technology to assess if the lung is viable. There are other areas where we are talking to rheumatologists who want to use our technology. The thing is, so we are able to scale up just because we are a platform. We are not a point solution or point product, which is catering to a particular surgery. So this is where we want to continue to expand. We can even expand into other veterinary sciences and the other fields.
All right, and keep it in the family, right? You got two daughters who are starting to be veterinarians, right?
Get the clinicians to use AI early. That's
We could pilot on the veterinary sector. I
yeah.
love that. All right, what's next for CAD and PD and the two future vets and the husband? Like, what's going on? What's the future look like for you guys in Henderson?
The future looks very calm just because the Henderson vibes are kicking into our family. And we look forward to this. It's great weather. We look forward to basically, hiking with our friends somewhere around. And also, we look forward to travels. We do a lot of travels as well. So we're looking forward to some international travels for work as well as for vacationing. Because the summer is coming up, my daughters are going to be back home. So it's full family again.
Well, if you go to the Strip, they have New York, they have Paris, they have the Venetian. This is short mini trips, right?
Yeah,
But
all in
all
one.
kidding aside, I'd like to ask, how has Henderson helped you as a business or a startup to get noticed and be put on the map? Because I feel like you have quite the presence now. But how did Henderson help with that?
There are a lot of incubators and a lot of accelerators which are coming around Henderson and Vegas in general. I've been talking to Lorraine at Tech Alley. On top of that, there is Zero Labs, and UNLV tends to have Biotech Vegas. So these are fantastic platforms which all around Henderson and Vegas does provide to entrepreneurs, which is very, very valuable to be able to be seen, heard, and get feedback. There is nothing which substitutes advice. All of them, the infrastructure is there, and there are people out there. And I can see the power of, because Henderson is a small city. The power comes when there's a small city and there's a community built, because you can get lost in a big city, but if it's a small city, it has its big advantages as well. So that's why I do feel like, Henderson does support its people. I do land up talking to government folks, and I see the excitement in their eyes and how they want
They're
to do
accessible.
it.
They're much more accessible. You came from the Bay, right? From the Bay Area, San Francisco
That's
area.
right. That's right.
How accessible were local governance?
It's hard to get access. I think
Yeah,
I ever landed up meeting anybody from the government. So that was
yeah.
unique about Henderson to be able to. Of course, Bay Area has its advantages having VC communities out there, but to be able to understand where the government wants to take us, to understand their big vision, and do we, as a agentic AI medical device company, fit out here? That's very important for us to understand.
Yeah, I mean, you cover something that I think a lot of people that have come on the show talked about, whether they're in technology or community leadership, is that Henderson is turning into this innovation hub that the world is starting to take notice to. At least this region, I'm talking the West Coast, is starting to take a little bit more of a notice. It's like, oh, I think that next big innovation hub is in Henderson. Is that you come from the Bay Area? You come from one of those gigantic hubs, you know, kind of like Seattle, kind of like Austin. But I feel like Henderson is next. You tell me your opinion? You tell me, what do you think?
Having a small place with a big attitude is a lot more better than being a big place and not be connected.
Yeah.
The power of connection is huge.
Yep.
So as long as being a small city, we are able to leverage the connection and the community which you are creating, and which Lorraine and Tech Alley, all the incubators are creating, that is very important. Just because, we get to learn from people around us. A company only succeeds if it has good advice, mentorship happening, and the support of the government. And we do get that access here. It's just leveraging that and highlighting that throughout the country. That is very important.
All right. Well, how can people check out some of your products or check out some of your solutions or read more about it? Where do they need to go?
Go to our website, www.trusthealth.ai, and feel free to reach out to me at info@trusthealthai.com.
What about can they connect with you on LinkedIn? Because I'm thinking
Ab-
maybe we can put like a little bit of a QR code with your LinkedIn or something like that.
I'm always available on LinkedIn and open to reaching out. My name is very easy to find, Kadambari Bilwar. I'm the only one. So yes, let's get connected. I'm very excited. Not only to
Excellent.
build towards Trust Health, to build my own community, because this is home to me. And
Yes.
I'm very passionate about, having a group of people who think like us, who basically want the community to grow together.
It's not just about business, it's about community, it's about growth, it's about creating this ecosystem that makes sense, that is positive and influential. There you
Yeah.
go. Kat, any last words for our listeners and viewers before we say goodbye?
Basically, what it means is community means relationship. Relations means relate. So I'm more than happy to help out wherever I can, and I would love to build my community and my home, because this is home now. So I
Yes.
would love to connect with everyone.
And it's a lovely home. It's a lovely community. I like that. I just fit
Community.
right into it when I moved in last year. I've been
Right.
engulfed. But heck, I created a show called Hello Henderson because I like it so much. So
Right. And one big thing is like, being an entrepreneur, you're always thinking, you're always making decisions and all. And to be able to have a community which is calm and peaceful, and that's what we've created for ourselves at Henderson.
thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that. I was just trying to get to meet people like you. So, but I guess it's doing better than I expected. Well, That is all the time that we have with Kat today. Kat, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you for
So,
taking some time out of your busy schedule just to come talk to us.
yeah, you're a TV. So,
All right. That'll do it for us today. Thank you, everyone, for listening and joining in. If you want to reach out to CAD, her information is right below in the comments. I'll make sure I include that in there. If you like what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, comment. If you want to be part of the show, let us know what you want to come and talk about. If you want us to talk about something, let us know what you want us to talk about. If you want us to feature somebody, let us know who it is that you want us to interview, and we'll see if we can get them on here. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you soon, Henderson. This is Haas, and this is Deadsprint Radio. By the way, Dad was supposed to be on the next Tech Alley Henderson, but she's so busy. I barely had to fit her in right before she leaves because she had to leave the country to do something. We're gonna have to pick you for our next Tech Alley Henderson event.
one thing I have to mention, I was watching High Potential with my daughter just yesterday, and they mentioned, oh, we are going to Henderson, Nevada. I'm like, yay, that's home. So it got me excited
We
about
made
it.
it.